Welcome back to Continue the Conversation. I am your host, Tega Aurora. There's something really interesting happening in entertainment right now. Audiences aren't just watching shows anymore. They're building relationships with characters, with stories, and with the people who bring them to life. Today's conversation is all about the intersection of storytelling, fandom, of what it's actually like being a part of one of the best shows that people feel really deeply connected to. I'm joined by actors Oli, who plays or who's recognized on Bridgerton as John the Footman, a series that not only is a global hit but a cultural phenomenon. From costumes to characters to online discourse, it's the kind of show that lives far beyond the screen. In this episode, we're going to talk about Oli's journey into acting, what it's like stepping into a world as big and beloved as Bridgerton, and how actors navigate the attention, expectations, excitement that comes with it. We also get to craft and how we build the character, how you stay grounded in a fast-moving industry, and what it means to be a part of stories that resonates on such a wide scale. If you've ever been curious of what happens behind the scenes of your favorite show, this one is for you. Let's get into it. Here's my conversation with Oli. Thanks, y'all. Yes. So, hello everyone. I'm with Oli. I'm very excited to have him here. This is like incredible. I'm literally like meeting one of the people I watch all the time and I'm a huge fangirl of. So, Oli, thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Taiga. I'm really excited to talk with you.
Awesome. Well, let's just get started. Let's get into it. There's so much that
Yeah.
needs to be said and like so much information that I would love for our audience to hear. So I want to start with like, how did you even start acting? How did you get into acting? Why was acting the choice? Like, was it a calling? Was it a vibe? What was acting to you?
I think acting to me, it's something that I've done as long as I can remember. This sort of weird thing of putting on a different outfit of clothes and walking around as somebody else, putting on a funny voice, kind of disappearing into a character. I started doing that when I was, 2, 3 years old. It was just kind of came naturally to me, and so I was lucky. I did school plays and all those sorts of things. I never really considered it as something that could be done as a career because, who even, it doesn't even, you don't even think about careers, I guess, as a kid, let alone the fun ones. You think, well, I'm going to do what, daddy does or whatever, and my dad worked in an office and, I thought, oh, that's probably what I'll do. And so when I was about 16, 17, I started to go see more plays in London and realised that there were people being paid to get up on stage and have a huge amount of fun by the looks of things. And I just wanted to be a part of that community. I think I was a slightly lost, teenager, to a degree. Certainly on a kind of like understanding who I was and my identities, and sort of all of those sorts of things. I felt like I found solace and a sense of belonging in theatre and music and the arts in general, and those are the people I always liked most. They were sensitive and kind a lot of the time, and in growing up can be quite a kind of, schools can be quite kind of brutal, very kind of hyper masculine, hyper sort of intense environments, and I suddenly realized that there are all these people who like to talk about their feelings, and that's what I like to do. So that kind of solidified it when I was like 17, 18. I was like, I want to do this as a career now. But it's, I think that was a bit of a bombshell dropping that for my parents and stuff, because I'm not from a especially creative sort of, not on a professional level, not a very creative family. I'm very creative on a sort of, family that love music and the arts, but no one had done it as a job. So that was a bit weird. I think they expected me to do something normal, in inverted commas. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you for that. And I love hearing early stories of why people chose to do their careers, because I think at certain points in life, you're just like, this is that moment. This is where I'm like, this is what I want to do. And I'm glad to hear your story. With that, I think the biggest thing on everyone's mind is you play Footman John. How did you land, I think, the role of a lifetime? Because I think anyone who's literally on Bridgerton is landing a role of a lifetime. So, like, how did you even get here, you know?
That's so true. I mean, through so many, bits of luck and happenstance, like anything, I suppose, it was one of my first ever acting jobs. It was my first ever acting job on screen, and one of my first acting jobs ever, full stop. I had gone to drama school, which is, I think one of the most reliable ways to try and get into the industry, at least in the UK. I say reliable, I mean, it's still incredibly unreliable, but slightly, there's some kind of, progression and path that you can go through if you go to drama school. That's what I did. I trained at a place called the Guildhall School of Music and Drama for 3 years, and they had a lot of graduates who had gone on to do TV and film in the UK and in America. And so when I graduated, I was fortunate enough to sign with an acting agent who's really amazing, and I'm still with her now. She's incredible. Shout out to Georgie Davies at Conway Van Gelder Grant. She's my acting agent. Love her. And so when you come out of drama school, you start you get sent these things called self-tapes, which are, for those of you who don't know, like, they're essentially the sort of most common way that you audition for things now. So you set up a camera at home, you put a light up, or you do it in front of a window or something to get some natural light, and you record the audition at home with someone reading the other character off camera. And then you send that in, and then usually never hear anything back. You might do, hundreds of these things, and they tend to not lead to anything. And so it was, a normal sort of Thursday, or I think it was Friday afternoon, when my agent sent me an email with something called Bridgerton. And it was 2019, probably like around September time. And I'd been out of drama school for about 3 or 4 months at that point, hadn't booked a job. And, I thought, okay, well, here's another tape. And the peculiar thing about this tape was that it was a very quick turnaround. You get this occasionally where, the TV and film industry moves in such mysterious ways. Sometimes it has to go very quick with certain characters, especially smaller characters. They spend their entire time working on trying to find the leads, and then smaller characters, they're kind of scrambling around, desperate to sort of find people. But it's so it can be a little bit more ad hoc. That was what happened with this. My agent was like, Oli, it was about 4 p.m. on a Friday, and she was like, we're gonna have to need this one in really by the end, like by 6 p.m. You have about 2 hours to do it. And I was on the other side of London, and I was like, well, I'm gonna have to scramble across back to my flat and do it. And I read the email back recently. My agent sent it to me, and in the email she was like, don't worry at all. It's super last minute. Don't stress about it. If you can't do it, you can't do it. And I was like, no, I'm definitely going to do it. Thank God I did. But it was funny because I literally put my camera up. I remember thinking the lighting wasn't great. And, read a scene for a Lord, actually, for the first season, and sent that in. And probably a month later, got a call saying that there was this other character, Footman John, and they wanted to have me for that. And it's funny because they were auditioning other people for Footman John. But they didn't want to see me for that. They wanted to see me for a Lord. But then they changed their mind. So what's so amazing is, of course, at that point, I was just supposed to go in and do a quick kind of couple of days, a scene with Eloise, and then a scene in the drawing room with Lord Burbrook and everyone. And that was going to be it. Of course, they wrote me in again and again and again and again. And here I am 6 years later, still talking about Bridgerton, which I never thought would have happened. So it really was a role of a lifetime. It has changed my career in ways, in every way. It's like, felt like the backbone and the springboard of so much in my life. And I'm so grateful for it.
Well, I'm grateful to see you on the screen and see your passion come through. And personally, I have a conspiracy theory where John the Footman is secretly like a lord who's going to find out he's a lord, and then somehow, some way, joins a ton, and everyone is shocked about it. But that's just me.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Writers, if you're listening, Tager's got a great story there.
Well, let's see. I don't know. I'm talking to Sandra Rhimes tomorrow, so we'll see how that goes. Hey, I have all these ideas. With that, I want to hear like your day to day on the set and like stepping into such a massive production, right? Like I think a lot of us see these behind the scenes of what a day looks like, and I don't know. I'm very much one of those people who's like, I need Bridgerton like injected in my veins yearly, right? And it takes so long. So I'm like, what does that actually look like from y'all's perspective? And like, how long does it take? What does a day look like? Because I'm hearing people are sitting in makeup chairs for like 3 hours before you even get started.
Yeah, true. So, the way it kind of works, I mean, you get, at least with season 4, I got a phone call probably in April, May, probably May time of 2024,
Mm.
to tell me that the writers and Jess, the showrunner, and all the producers wanted to, make a lot more of my character this season, and that
Yeah.
they wanted to book me for a kind of 8 month shoot, which is the standard for Bridgerton. Not the standard
Okay.
for the industry, but Bridgerton do things like slow and detailed, as you know, which makes the show so amazing. And so they spend a month an episode, essentially. So they have 4 weeks to shoot one episode, yeah, which is just kind of unheard of in television. So that was when I got that phone call, kind of June time of 2024. That was going to be September 2024 until around May of 2025. So a huge commitment and something obviously I really wanted to do, and so it kind of takes over your life. It becomes part of your daily, weekly existence. Of course, like there are lots of characters in Bridgerton. There's lots of scenes, and
Yeah.
there's lots of scenes I'm not in. So there were plenty of times when I wasn't on set. But you kind of, even when you're off set, you're kind of part of the Bridgerton family. You see each
Mm.
other. Particularly Gracie and I would hang out quite a lot, go for drinks, go for coffee, catch up, and all of that. But in terms of the day itself, it's full on. It's you're up at 3 in the morning, half 3 in the morning, and I always shave at the start of the day
Mm-hmm.
because we like Footman John to be nice and clean
Mm-hmm.
shaven because he's a member of the staff. So at about 3 a.m., I'll kind of roll out of bed, go to the bathroom, play some music, shave, and probably put I like to put an ice pack on my face on my way in
Mm.
just to kind of like soothe, cool myself down. And then the makeup chair for me is actually not too bad because the wig. If when I'm wearing the wig, it's quite simple.
Mm.
I can tell you it's not comfortable. It's the most uncomfortable experience of all time. People just sticking pins in your head. For anyone who wears wigs, will know like those pins can really get you. So that's not great, but it's a relatively quick process. I'm kind of in and out of there compared to some of the ladies. Obviously, Golda, who
Mm-hmm.
plays the Queen, she's in there
Okay.
for just so many hours. But so yeah, and I tend to get a decaf coffee when I arrive because I don't really drink caffeine when I'm working because I'm too excitable anyway. And have a decaf coffee, poke my head into some of the other trailers, say hello, and then we go to set, read through the scene, and then we're up and running. And those days are pretty long. You'll be there until as long as they can keep you, which is usually the sun will be setting, and then you go home and do it all over again the next day. But it's a very warm environment, and people are so passionate about what they're doing, and the food is very good. So there's very good cheesecake on set. There's very good sandwiches and all sorts of fun things. So it's a very lovely vibe. I love doing it, and it's unlike anything I've filmed a lot of TV shows, and the Bridgerton energy is very unique because, everyone knows you're working on kind of the biggest show in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So the attention to detail and the care across all the departments is extraordinary, but it's still somehow a very relaxed place to work, which is great. So yeah.
Awesome. This is an interesting question. It's got a little bit of a plot to it. So I think I had my storyline for Footman John. If Footman John had his own storyline, or there's some inside tea on maybe the next season, what would your storyline be? And what would you like that storyline to be? Because personally, I would love for you to like get married and have kids and like see what
Yeah.
life is like, the workers of the town having like their own families. But that's just me. Okay, but what would your
Absolutely.
storyline be?
Well, obviously, I can't give anything away, and I'm, not even going to imply anything. And the fact is, I don't also know a huge amount, as well. So, but, of course, I think a lot about Footman John. I think I think like you, I'd love to see, I think we all loved seeing, them going to the pub, going and dressing in their civvy, out of their outfits and kind of that's that working class lifestyle that exists outside of the house as well as inside the house. I think was really interesting how they socialize because obviously how they socialize, how they fall in love. When you don't have unlimited amounts of money and you don't have unlimited amounts of privilege and opportunity, and life is difficult. Fun, super fun. I mean, they're happy. I do believe that like Footman John is a really happy guy living
Mm.
a great life, but it's totally different. So I think I agree with you. It would be great to see him, you know, sort of pursue a relationship and see that build and see how you can juggle that work-life balance, which I think is feels like a very contemporary theme. You know, it's a hard thing to do. You know, he would definitely not want to give up his job at the Bridgerton house because it's one of the best places to work. It's very well paid. They're a very supportive, loving family to him. But of course, he has dreams and aspirations of his own. So I'd love to delve a bit deeper, for sure, into how he would sort of manage his romantic life alongside his work life. So yeah, especially because you know he's been such a flirt, and you know I think to see him fall in love would be really satisfying. But also I think he is someone who lives to serve and loves to, you know, support the people around him. So he's always going to recognize that he needs to sacrifice something in order to support people like Eloise, you know, and make sure that they feel comfortable and happy. And that's the lifestyle that he's chosen to live. And I think he's happy to live in that as well.
I love that. I will keep this as a point of reference. So if it does come true, we'll come back to this episode.
Absolutely.
But I want to switch away from Footman John a little bit. And I want to talk about you. I did some research like I do with all my guests, and you make music. You make music.
Yes.
Like, what? Okay. Like, I am becoming a
Good
fan
on.
even more. So how does music like fit into like your artist's life, right? Like creating modern Ollie. Like, what's that like?
Yeah, it's honestly one of my favorite things in the world. It has brought me so much joy. I've written songs all my life, you know, as long as I can remember. When I was a teenager, I would sneak out of classes to go and write songs. You know, it was always kind of on my mind. And so to be able to celebrate, you know, Bridgerton at the start of this year and be thrown into that kind of whirlwind, but at the same time be able to share my music and share this side of me that people don't know about, it has been so important and so special to me. I just feel so blown away by the people who have embraced the songs and listened to them and care about them and made videos to them and are coming to see me perform live. And it just is so cool because that's how I've always felt. Absolutely consider myself an actor, but I'm also an artist who creates all sorts of things, and to be able to be embraced, you know, in that way, it makes me feel really seen, which is cool.
Awesome. So do you approach like storytelling and music differently than acting, right? I think maybe they're both like the same. You're exuding emotion, you're exuding sometimes a character, right? I don't know. According to people, Beyonce has an alter ego. So is that the same kind of thing?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's why I wanted to release it under Modern Ollie, you know, rather than Oli Higginson, because the way I see it with songs, you know, songs are quite short, you know, they're 2, 3, 4 minutes long, and you know, you're never going to be able to understand a whole human being, a whole lifetime in the space of a song. It's just impossible, you know. So what you're doing and what I like to do is to explore bits of myself, you know, in detail. I go, okay, what was that night about? You know, what was I going through that night, or that conversation that I overheard, or that time when I was in that relationship? You know, what was that? And so you can kind of go sort of right into a moment in time, a conversation, and explore it. And that's sort of what the songs are. Like each song, I think, is a reflection of a part of me. It's not all of me. It's, you know, there's still plenty of things you know, people don't know about me, and you know, I still have a private life and you know, all of those sorts of things. But it's an opportunity to share and, like, I guess, let people in on my thoughts and feelings. But the goal is like it's never about being like, oh, look how interesting I am. It's about look at our sameness, you know, look at what we have in common as human beings and how beautiful that is. Because I know that with my favorite artists, when I listen to them, I go, oh my gosh, like what they're singing about is exactly what I've gone through. And that's what I want people to feel like when they hear my songs, is that it's a soundtrack to their life. It's not the soundtrack to mine, you know, and that's what I'm really excited about. I want to keep doing it, you know, and I have plenty more songs to share, and like loads. Honestly, Taylor, like I actually just came off a call prior to this meeting with, you know, a music call with some really amazing people, and I am blown away by the doors that have been opened, you know, from music, and so many exciting things in the pipeline. I cannot wait to share it all with people. And the fact is, I only put my songs on Spotify like 7 weeks ago, 6, 7 weeks ago. Like it's just so new, so it feels very, very fresh, very exciting.
Well, it's so new, but you're definitely having an audience, and you have a fan in me who will be consistently listening and waiting for any new thing to come out. So
Thank
keep
you.
going, keep doing it, because definitely I want to feel that with you. And a couple more questions before we wrap up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What kind of role are you hoping for next? I'm just saying, put it
Ooh,
out there in the world because you never know who could be watching.
that is a great question. It's tricky because the thing that I always say with what I love about acting is that you can do lots of different things. Enjoy the challenge of going from one thing to another. So yeah, so when I think about the kind of role, I like the variety. I like the challenge of kind of yo-yoing from one opposite to another. That's what I've always tried to do in my acting career. That's what my agent has been so embracing of, I think, is that I like to play a protagonist, then an antagonist, a romantic character, then someone who's going through a crisis, then whatever. So in terms of what comes next, I the number one thing for me is that it's a role that challenges me, stretches me, and surprises both me and people who are familiar with my work. I haven't had a huge amount of opportunity on screen to delve into slightly darker characters. I've done it quite a lot on stage. I'm literally doing a production of American Psycho right now in London, and these all those characters are you know pretty as nasty as they get. But I'd love to do a screen project that was a little darker, more of a drama, a bit more intense. I think that's kind of where I would be wanting to go. And there are things in the pipeline that I sort of want to talk about, but obviously can't. I'm lucky that some great stuff is coming my way that I'm really excited about, and yeah, I just would love to play a villain. Yeah. That's what I'm gonna put out there. I think I've got it very. I'm ready to enter my villain era for a little bit, and then return to, you know, a lovely sort of charming romantic character too. But let's go and get into the villain.
Honestly, I love a good dark side moment. Definitely, I think everyone needs it. And we love that. And just to wrap up our conversation, what advice would you give a young creative trying to break into acting, break into music, and just figure out where they take themselves from there or here or wherever they are?
Yeah, great question. And I used to listen to interviews and watch interviews religiously as a kind of aspiring actor, trying to get to the holy grail, the kind of answer to these sorts of questions, because you don't know what to do, do you? Like, should I train at a drama school? Should I go and do, extra work, on set just to get a feel for that? Should I watch loads of films? I mean, I think the fact is, like, what I would say is very big. If you're at the beginning, I think training is fantastic. Whatever way that looks, whether that's just watching a huge amount of stuff and trying to understand what you like about it, developing your taste, what kind of actor or musician do you want to be, and thinking about what makes those performances, those songs, those actors, what makes them resonate with you on a personal level, and get in touch with that. So I think honing your craft and your taste, but then at the same time, I think always recognizing that your superpower is your uniqueness. And I spent so much time, and I still do it now, and I have to, like, kick myself and be like, stop it. You spend so much time trying to emulate what someone else is doing, trying to be as good as them at something or similar to them, or to look like them, dress like them, talk like them. And at the end of the day, that's just a losing battle, because they already exist and they're already doing it better than you could ever do it, better than I could ever do it, anyways. What I've recognized, and what has been so lovely to realize in the last year or so, actually, now that I'm about 5 or 6 years into my career, is that I I can begin to accept the kind of actor and artist that I am. Not that one that I wanted to be, but the one that I am, the one that has been made, and the one that is sitting here. And if you can develop that and love that bit of yourself, the bit of you that feels the most you, then I think you stand the best chance of having a career. And I think you
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ollie. This was a great conversation. I'm glad that people got to meet you as an artist, an actor, and a musician. And I'm definitely excited for them to follow along. I will link all of his social media down below, as well as his Spotify song. So you guys should check it out and support. And I'm really excited to see the future of you as an artist, you as Footman John, and you as Modern Ollie, as a very, very devoted fan. So thank you so much for being here. That was my conversation with Ollie. I'm so grateful to have him and just to hear his experience. What I really appreciated about the conversation is a reminder that behind every character people fall in love with are the actors doing the work, showing up, building and refining and bringing those stories to life in a way that feels real. And in a moment where fandoms is louder, faster, and more connected than ever, it's interesting to think about how actors experience that in real time. The support, the excitement, and something about pressure that comes with it. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a fellow Bridgerton fan like me, or your friends, or someone who loves storytelling and behind the scenes insight. As always, thank you for continuing the conversation with me. I'll see you next time, friends. Bye.